Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Zakaria Al-Ghazoui, and today I will be presenting the foundational pillars of research methods, specifically covering Chapter 1 and Chapter 3 of our course. This presentation was developed under the guidance of Professor Badr. As we begin, I want you to think of research not just as an academic task, but as a systematic way of decoding the world around us. Whether you are a student, a professional, or a curious observer, the methods we discuss today are the tools you need to find the truth in a sea of opinions. Let's start with the definition of research. Research is the systematic inquiry into a subject to discover facts or principles. In the social sciences, it is our primary lens for understanding society. The why does this matter in daily life? Without research, we rely on intuition, which is often wrong. For example, people might assume a certain policy helps the poor. But research allows us to look at the actual data and see the real people, the real world, impact. It moves us from I think to I know based on evidence. Now, let's jump to the research process. The research process is a journey that moves through several critical stages, such as identifying the problem, reviewing literature, forming questions, designing the study, collecting data, and finally analyzing and reporting. Now, I want to highlight the literature review step. You cannot skip this. Before you start your own study, you must stand on the shoulders of the giants who came before you. If you don't know what has already been discovered, you might waste months answering a question that was already settled 10 years ago. Now, what are research methods? Research methods are the specific tools and procedures we use for systematic inquiry to generate knowledge. Think of these as the rules of the game. In academic research, you cannot just make a claim without showing your work. These methods provide a standardized framework so that another researcher can look at your study, follow your steps, and see if they get the same results. This is what makes knowledge scientific rather than just anecdotal. Now that we are done with part 1, which is the basics and the why, we'll go through part 2, which is categorizing and sourcing idea. Now, we have types of research. Research is generally divided into two main categories: basic and applied. Now, basic research, which is this is driven by curiosity. Its goal is to expand our theoretical understanding and build new knowledge for the sake of science. Now, for applied research, this is practical. It is designed to solve a specific, immediate problem in the real world. Think of basic research as studying the laws of gravity, while applied research is using those laws to build an airplane. One provides the map and the other provides the destination. Now let's go with sources of research ideas. Where do these ideas come from? They aren't just random sparks, they come from social issues, existing academic literature, personal experiences, or even simple observations of the world. Don't ignore your own life experiences. If you notice that students in your neighborhood struggle with a specific subject, that observation is a valid starting point. A great researcher is like a detective. I mean, they are always looking for patterns or gaps where the current knowledge doesn't quite explain what is happening on the ground. Now, let's move on to part 3: philosophy and logic, where we will find ontology and epistemology. Now we enter the engine room of research, the philosophy. Ontology is the study of the nature of reality. Is reality objective and out there, or is it subjective and created by our minds? Now, for epistemology is the study of knowledge. How do we actually acquire it? These two concepts dictate your whole study. If you believe reality is a set of hard facts, you will use math. If you believe reality is a collection of human stories, you will use interviews. Research paradigms. Philosophies lead to paradigms, which are shared sets of beliefs. We have positivism, facts and laws; interpretivism, which is meaning and interaction; and others like the critical paradigm or postmodernism. For deep elaboration, imagine studying a protest. A positivist counts the protesters. An an interpretivist asks them why they are there. A critical researcher asks who has the power to stop them. Each paradigm gives you a different piece of truth. Now, to end chapter 1, we will go through research approaches. Logic moves in two directions: inductive and deductive. Inductive, you observe something, find a pattern, and then create a theory. However, in deductive, you start with a theory and then collect data to see if the theory is correct. Think of inductive as exploring and deductive as testing. Most researchers use a bit of both throughout their careers. Now that we are done with chapter 1, we'll go into part 3. We'll go through chapter 3, part 4, which is designing the inquiry. Now we have problems, norms, and purposes. Defining the problem is the most vital step because it anchors the study. We also distinguish between normative, which is value-based, and empirical, which is testable research. Our purpose might be exploration, description, or explanation. If you are exploring a brand new phenomenon, like the impact of a new AI tool, you are in the exploration phase. You aren't providing a law yet, you are just trying to see what is there. Now, jump into research questions and examples. A good question must be clear, specific, and feasible. Look at the difference between is the internet bad and how does social media affect the political engagement of youth? The first is a vague opinion. The second is a researchable question because we can measure usage and engagement. Hypothesis. In quantitative research, we use hypotheses, which is testable predictions. Null hypothesis predicts no relationship between variables. However, alternative hypothesis predicts that a relationship does exist. For example, if I study coffee and focus, the null says coffee has no effect on focus, while the alternative says coffee increases focus duration. Finally, we have methodological approaches. Finally, we choose our tools. Quantitative methods focus on numbers and statistical analysis. Qualitative methods focus on words, meanings, and deep descriptions. Mixed methods Use both to provide a more complete picture. Now that we are done with chapter 1 and chapter 3 of our presentation, welcome to a conclusion. In conclusion, research is a systematic journey that moves from philosophical paradigms to specific methodologies. By asking the right questions and choosing the right methods, we can generate knowledge that is both valid and impactful for society. That's it. Thank you for your attention. Have a great day.